Alon Grimonski, founder and CEO of BlazeMeter, and today we're going to talk about peak load testing. And with me, Mani, please introduce yourself.
Yep, I'm Mani Rajappa. I'm with GSI Health. I manage all of our CD, quality assurance practice, and our mobile development. So, Alon and I, we're going to talk about a couple of things with how to achieve with our APIs.
Yes. So, overall, I think kind of to set the stage and get things in motion, the industry is going through a transition, right? Some would call it digital transformation, some would call it DevOps, shift left, continuous testing. I've heard over the past few years, I've heard many terms that describe kind of what we are witnessing. But the idea is, it's very simple, that what we've done in the mid-2000s, let's say, we're now doing it differently, right? We're doing it differently because developers and software, the place is different, right? It's more important, it's more the core of the business. Software is going inside the organization as opposed to being used as a service outside. And you simply develop more, want to release faster, and you have more people involved. Therefore, the practices are changing. And the practice that, my passion, and now in CA, is how do you make testing more relevant, right? How do you make testing not be a bottleneck or something that will slow down the cycle? Actually, the opposite. How can the test coverage keep the pace of software development, right? And this is where kind of we do shift left and load testing and all that stuff. So this is kind of why I'm here. And Moni, I kind of let's switch sides because
You want me to drive?
I'll do it. I'll be the enter. Yes. So we have the presentation, but I think I'm gonna leave it just for kind of to be in the background. The one thing, and I talked with Moni yesterday, I wanted to ask. I want to bring someone with real challenges, right? I'm, as a vendor, can speak a lot and say, hey, this is beautiful, this is amazing, but sometimes it's more beneficial to hear from real audience. So, Moni, we kind of talked about your challenges and what you're trying to achieve specifically around kind of shifting your organization left and trying to make testing more accessible to the engineering team, etc. So kind of to start the conversation, what are you trying to achieve? When you go into your organization, what is the KPI, the one KPI, if not, what is the handful of KPIs that you say, if I'll achieve those, I'm good?
Sure. One of the key things we look for, we're in the healthcare domain, so one of the key things we look for is our products should always, the critical components should always be available, because most of our critical components come in a life and death situation. So when our physicians or our nurses using our product and they have to make some kind of a decision point, they cannot wait for our product to open up slowly. They cannot wait for it to have errors, because they have to make a decision at that point for a patient. So those are the key things we look for. Like, we look at what are the critical components in our product, make them always available, finite availability, and then we say, to support those critical components, what are the next layer? As a SaaS offering, we need to always keep it running. Then we come to the third layer to say, these are all good to haves. If we don't achieve 24/7 availability, that's fine. But at least let's make sure we work towards it, that they are never down. Let's work towards the goal. So that's where continuous testing very aptly fits into what we want to do. Because we are always looking at, let's look at the right set of tests at the right time.
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's kind of, and we talked, I've been with BlazeMeter since the beginning, right? And I've met with, I know, hundreds to potentially thousands of different customers, right? All dealing with the same situation. Every time, and this is yet another time, that it's all different. Why? Because you're just described your life and death situation and things that are specific to your practice, to what you do. But it's always two layers. It's what I'm doing on a day-to-day, in the health industry, in the media, in the retail, and then there is the other layer, which is more technology, delivering, continuous deployment, and continuous integration and testing and development, all that stuff. There is one vocabulary that is specific. Then there is the vocabulary that is common across kind of the entire scene. And it's nice to hear that there's always two sides to that coin.
True.
So that first.
That's true. That's totally true. That's totally true. And our continuous testing is interpreted in the industry multiple definitions, right? So our interpretation is running automated tests early in the cycle, finding problems early in the cycle, providing feedback also early in the cycle. So and running the appropriate tests at the appropriate times. You don't need to run your entire suite all the time. Run the needed tests at the right time, but early in the cycle. So that's how we approached it, and that's where this shift left concept, when it started to bubble up for us, we were already kind of doing shift left. So it was not a new phenomena for us, where we were already getting used to doing it. The only thing is they put a name to it for us.
So Moni, please explain to me, what is shift left? What is okay, now I shift left, I'm good.
You're good. So shift left is basically what you try to do is you try to advance your testing early in your SDLC. So, and it starts all the way from your design, planning, development stages itself. So you start to think about the entire value chain. The first thing with shift left and continuous testing is you need to understand what value am I producing and providing to my business customers. You need to think about some things like product increments. Can I give something small enough and do it quick enough so that my customers are getting it early enough and are happy, or can give me feedback so that I can continue doing it? So with shift left, you first have to have that mindset to say, I need to keep on giving something quick enough. Then you have to say, so given that's the rule I'm going to work with, how do I approach it? And you have to start early. So you start with literally testing as soon as a software is executable. You have to get out of the mindset where I can only test only when it's a system available or a software available. You have to get out of that. You have to start thinking, saying, is this executable? I should be able to test it. So that basically means you're blurring the roles. You're no longer a developer, a tester. You are one of the person in those functions to help realize the value of the product.
I'll tell you, I'm fascinated to hear this. And I'll say, it's not, hey, you already bought, I don't need to be nice, right? No, seriously. But the reason is, these trends and fashions that we meet in the industry, many times we don't really understand. Many times we give them a meaning, right? For example, shift left and DevOps. DevOps, by itself as a term, 4 years ago, when you asked 10 people, what is DevOps? When you ask 2 people, what is DevOps? You got 4 opinions, right? It's kind of because everyone gave their own meaning. And what I hear, and shift left is such kind of a term, a set of keywords. And what I hear from you is test earlier.
Yes.
Right? It's kind of, if you can test, early enough in the cycle, do it.
Yes.
Don't wait.
Don't wait.
And the benefits will come. So I'll give you kind of my definition, of shift left. It's kind of, some would consider shift left as, and I know that you're not among these, but relocate left. Move the responsibility for quality from the QA, move it to developers, right? Relocate the responsibility, but obviously that's not the case. Shift left, expand, share the burden, share the responsibility between the QA team and the developers, and obviously by testing earlier. One of the reasons, and I'd like also kind of, I'll give my opinion and I'd love you to share yours, for shift, other than, hey, it makes sense, right? Kind of let's share the burden, social responsibility. But the why to shift left is more into, again, if the app economy is growing exponentially and the number of lines of code is again growing exponentially, to keep the same pace for the test coverage, to keep the same pace, something radical need to change. It's not let's, add more hours into the 24-hour day, right? Or work on Saturdays. That's not the case, right? There's something radical is enabling the engineering teams to assist, and if you look at it from 100 testers in the center of excellence, you move to 5,000 testers across. The shift, A, expand left, and B, the reason for it is how do we get more testers, more tests going by shifting left. How do you see this?
So in that, it's a challenge. It's not easy. Like I said, the blurring of development roles and the QA roles is with continuous testing and shifting left, it becomes great. So you can have developers writing test scripts. You can have QA test engineers doing unit tests. So what that does is you start to connect them more. With the key with DevOps is communication, collaboration, and integration.
Okay.
Those three things you need to keep on enabling. Means continuous testing enables that. It's an enabler for that. So you make the engineers and the developers work together, and like you said, you look only at one common goal. At the end of the day, this should be something I should be able to produce. I should be able to provide to my business. So they don't now just throw the code off the wall and ask the testers to go test it. Now they say, come, let's work together to make this good quality. And like we talked, we have to move this more shared responsibility rather than just being QA engineers, test engineers, this is your responsibility. To get to that, one of the biggest challenges we encountered was, trying to get the testers out of this mind shift.
Okay.
Where we had to tell them that you don't need to be ready to test only when you have a full-fledged system. Start testing as early as possible, only when you have a small piece of code, when only part of the API is done. Validate just the assertions for which it's available. Start, chugging along very quickly and easily. Second thing is we had to elevate the test engineering team's role within the organization. So we had to tell them that you have to increase your profile, you have to increase your skills, you need to be good enough to go challenge your developers. You need to go good enough to go tell them, this is what you're developing, guess what, you've just finished this piece of it, I'm going to go unit test this and I'll tell you a problem now. So the developers had to now not just be ready to throw the code to him, he had to be ready to handle these kind of things coming from a test engineer previously, which was different, where the developer could tell him, this is how this works, you go test. Now this guy is going to his code and checking things. So that means he had to respect him and he had to respect him. So that was a big challenge we ran into.
Moni, I'm going to surprise you.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
are you prepared?
I am. I'm kind of.
Okay, put on your seatbelt.
Okay.
So one of the challenges I've talked with many of our customers and colleagues is developers, they have their own mindset. They are,
Yeah.
I can say I'm a developer, right? So
Yeah.
they're a bit crazy. Right? So the ability to influence is usually tough. And people
Very
ask,
tough.
so how do we encourage developers to test? So do you mind doing a role play?
No worries. Yeah.
I'm a developer.
Okay.
I'm the JavaScript developer,
Okay.
right? I have my headset on.
Okay.
You know, I come to work with flip-flops or
Okay.
whatever. Now, yeah, you need to convince. I don't want to test. I hate. You need to test, right? This is how it goes. I do my JavaScript. I don't test.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. Hey, Alan. Looks like we both are working on this story, and you're the developer for that. We have to finish the story. I think we have a deadline working towards this today. Can you tell me what you're working on? Maybe I can help you to test it.
Good. I'm writing a function that will trigger a semaphore, and at one point you'll see funny things on the screen, and it's awesome. Right?
Oh, perfect. Oh.
And I don't have time. I'm sorry. I'm really, really busy.
That's totally fine. What you do is just give me, you have your code, have you checked it in means just give me access to it. I'll go grab it from Bitbucket. And do you have any documentation? I can go take a look at it.
Documentation? That's not. I'm not writing documentation. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm really busy. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So then why don't I do this? If it's a simple function, I'll just take it, I'll play with it, I'll run some inputs and outputs of it. And once I'm done, I'll share my results. Why don't we then talk after that? Is that okay for you?
Listen, that's fine. Everything you want. You test it. If there are bugs, they are your bugs, and you fix it.
It's not my bugs, Alan. It's our bugs. So let's work together to fix it, okay?
You know, you are so not. I'll probably do that with you. It's kind
See?
of- yeah. So, actually, customer asked, how do you motivate developers to do that, right? He told me something that kind of stuck in my mind, which is developer should own quality. In a
Yes.
sense, not the organizational quality, because nothing will replace the quality assurance, say, but developers write code, they need to own quality. And in many ways, we can speak to developers that way because it's your code, it's your quality. I'm enabling you, I'm facilitating you, giving you means to test your code, but basically enabling the developer to own quality.
Yeah.
Because the one a developer hates is for the QA person to say, hey, you have a bug. I don't have a bug. It's you that, it's a feature, a feature is missing. Or
It works on
whatever.
my machine.
Yeah. So, Moni, I know that we're running out of time. Are we still okay? A few minutes? Just
Yeah.
making
Yes,
sure?
sir. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. So at least kind of from what I've learned, again, I learned only from customers and people like you, okay? There are three topics when you're thinking about kind of what's right for me at this time. Third is automation,
Yes.
right? It's very simple. The way kind of, in the past in waterfall, you can have, the waterfall release cycle, you can look at it at discrete points over time. Every year, anywhere between these, you can reverse engineer, build script, do whatever. These points close continuous line, right? This is continuous delivery where everything,
It's going out of it. Yep.
we simply don't have time to build the test, right? And this is where automation is not something that kind of let's schedule so we won't forget. Automation is a way to kind of replace them, get test criteria.
Yep.
So, are you addressing automation? Have you seen the need for automation? Tell us kind of what's going on in SciHealth.
Totally. So yes, we are, I would say, almost a 90% automated shop. And
Wait a minute. No,
Thanks.
seriously.
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. So,
The only manual things we do is we do like UATs with the clients and the customers, or exploratory testing and things like that to test our workflows and things like that. Almost everything we have is automated, and again with continuous testing, how we did is we didn't think about the automation as being this huge monolith, and we have to have for everything verify the UI and do everything with that. So we split those things into small chunks. We first said, let's work with the various services we have, the APIs we have. Let's have set of library of tests to check that first. If that's completed, only when we then go to this one. Then we go to a smoke test for a UI. Only when that's done, we go to a much more regression test rate. So every time our goal is we don't keep on running 2,000 tests, 4,000 tests. We don't do that because again, our goal is quicker feedback. So I should be, with every build check-in, within 3 minutes, we are able to give an entire platform overall sanity on our services, UI, performance, security, everything.
wow.
So because we, at the same time, we trigger this with multiple tools. So we have like, SaaS, we have Blaze, we have all the things running multiple. So when check-in happens, the orchestration is all different Jenkins jobs. It goes and runs all these things. Within 3 minutes, I have my sanity check done. And then that's when actually it triggers off the next set of tests. And when it triggers the next set of tests, it automatically intimates the people who want to do any kind of a manual test. So while the manual test is happening, some other automation is still happening. So we try to do all in small chunks and as parallel as possible. And that's the only way you can go faster. There is no other way, because this is all the time you have. You don't want to work weekends. You don't want to do extra hours, right? So this is the only, and that helps a lot in the relationship between the tester and the developer, because I give him a quicker feedback and I tell him, hey, I just ran this test. I didn't even go there, but this is a problem. Can you fix it now? They take care of it, they fix it, and before the next set test runs, the issue is already resolved.
I must say that first, congratulations.
Thank
right?
you.
It's kind of to get to 90% or even close to that, to go above 50% in my eyes. It's first, congratulations. It's a major achievement. More to the fact that the organization you live in, it's not like a San Francisco-based startup that kind of started yesterday with zero technology debt, right? So my experience is you don't see this quite often. So first, congratulations.
Thank you.
To kind of close this session, and seriously, thank you for joining me and kind of sharing your experience.
Yep.
I have two questions. One is the one thing that you would ask. It can be sort of magical or whatever, right? Or achievable in 2 lines of code, right? But what is the one thing that you ask from a vendor or from any vendor is kind of. The other thing is, I'll wait with the other thing until you.
I think one thing I would ask from vendors, as I think we talked about it, is in terms of mapping your whatever KPIs and metrics you're doing is, and we are going in the AI, machine learning route means, I want to see how quickly can I get some metrics and some standards based on compliance, based on audit. So that's the key area where we spend most of our time, and it's a manual intensive process. And by going fast, the biggest thing you don't want to do is compromise on your quality or compromise or something you had to do for compliance, because that will bite you in the back, a couple of months down the lane.
So you want to connect your testing effort, testing pipeline to compliance.
Yeah,
to know that you're on track and
Yes.
okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
What is the one tip that you can give the audience on their journey to either shift left or automation?
Yeah, one thing I would say with when you're going to embark on automation or continuous testing or shift left, whatever it is, you need to have a very good visibility on what you want to automate and plan and design it in such a way you can have smaller chunks of it. Because no matter how much you design and automate and you're going to have your test suites, you're going to have to maintain it. So you need to think about, and you have to think about the automation test scripts as developed code. So that needs to be checked in. It has to go through all the rigor you would go through your software code. And you should think about the right test execution at the right time. Because it is never going to be helpful. It will be always counterproductive for you if you are just going to run your entire test suite all the time. There won't be just time enough for you. The key here is try to get quick feedback to your customers and run the right tests at the right time.
So you're saying kind of weave the testing into development. You
Yes.
cannot treat it as two different.
Don't.
Testing cannot be an afterthought.
It cannot
right?
be.
It's not water in oil, so to speak. They need to weave in together
Yeah.
from the point of development to the point of kind of production.
Yeah, and it's a joint responsibility. Your developers and your test engineers should be joined at the hip.
No, yeah, and I wish it was easy. I wish all of the organizations would have been successful like you, and probably, kind of
Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Thanks.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you.